Tell me any life experience and give me advice for life. All right, first and foremost, take everything with a grain of salt. Anything that is external to you, not from within, take with a grain of salt. Second, just like going to a good doctor, the doctor doesn't just prescribe you pills, medication, etc., without first asking questions, without first auditing the content and context of your situation. Because this is a vlog, I'm not going to be able to do that. However, what I can do is respond with what I'm going through right now, with what I'm working on right now. Third, I would encourage you to keep an open mind attached to nothing and to drop the guard, the ego, so that way you may receive information, knowledge, beliefs that may aid you in your journey in life. So with that said, here's my response. What I'm currently going through right now in my journey of life is three things. First, starting with myself, is self-mastery. And that is me embodying what I am actively learning, actively seeking, the wisdom that I am cultivating, learning, reading, receiving through my studies, through my actions in life, and throughout the days that I live. And so one thing that I started recently, literally this past week, is I was working with ChatGPT, asking it questions. And what I did was I fed it information based on my goals, based on who I want to become in the process, and also what information and tools can help me bridge the gap faster. So in simple terms, like what I did was I used ChatGPT. It's free. I have the highest tier on it because I'm just using it for certain different things for myself and my business, but it's accessible to the general public for free. So you can literally do this today if you wanted to, or if you're inspired to, is tell ChatGPT your goals, right? It can be in the context of your life, whatever that may be. Make it personal for you, personalized to yourself. And in my case, what I did was I gave it information on who I want to become. I basically described who is the ideal version, my future version of myself that I aspire to be, to become, to do the work in order to get there, right? And in return, what it gave me was actually a list of books, different books. There were 7 books specifically that it gave me. And it also put it in order for me to read. So that way I could actually understand, conceptualize it, wrestle through it, think through it, really embody it and really decide for myself and define it. What does that information mean to me? And then from there, after I wrestle with it, because I'm actively going through it as right now, then, according to ChatGPT and my goals with the roadmap that I was given, I'll become that person I want to become. Okay, so that is one thing that I'm actively doing right now. And I encourage every single person to do that, to do that practice in 3 steps. Just to summarize it, step 1 is define your goals for yourself. It could be who you want to become, mastering yourself. It can be the leader that you want to become. And again, being that leader, that role model for others, not just for yourself, but for others as well, will benefit society as a whole. So I think that's really important, actually. So number 1, determine what your goals are for yourself. Share that information, that context to ChatGPT if you want to. Number 2, ask specifically what books, references, or tools should I, learn, go through, read, learn, listen to, etc. What are those tools that I should pick up and use so that way I can bridge the gap faster? The last thing is obviously putting it into action, right? You always want to let your learning lead to action, because you don't want to get stuck into this analysis paralysis where you're just learning and learning and learning, but never doing, never letting your learning lead to action. You have to do that. That's a must. It's a non-negotiable, especially in this world that we're in, right? Society benefits from the actions that you take, not just the learning that you instill. So that's something that I'm actively working on. Literally this morning, I was listening to a book that's on my book list that I need to go through. And Already I'm downloading information. Already I am wrestling with the ideas. Already am I thinking about the concepts that I talked about. Already am I thinking about how can I use that information into today, into the now? How can I implement it into like the real time of today, so that way I can benefit as well as others can benefit from my learning, right, and my action. So that is one thing that I would encourage you and everyone else who watches this to do right away. I don't think there's a downside to it, but I'll give you a caveat. Is that, again, with every decision that you make, it will shape your destiny. And so there's always a trade-off when you are making a decision. For me, the trade-off that I made when I decided to follow through with the 7 books that ChatGPT gave to me, I had to shut off all the other books I was listening to already, like that I'm reading already. I have a coaching call every Tuesday with one of my brothers, and he is a student, a real good student and advisor to myself as well. And he literally goes through books like daily, but not just any books. Like, he has his own curriculum that he's going through. And it's like, I believe it's over, if I recall correctly, it's over 200 books in order that he must go through. And that's for him. That's for his purpose that he wants to fulfill in his life. And so that leads me to the second point, which is, no matter what age you are when you're receiving this information, I would encourage you to figure out what your purpose is in life. For me, with my nonprofit, the Love Tower at Asha, we are building a monument of love for the world. That is part of my purpose. That is something that we put our own personal funds into to get started. We went through the legal route and everything to make sure that it's all compliant based, etc. And it is now officially a 501c3 nonprofit organization. That is for the benefit of society. That is my mission. That is my calling. That is my purpose. That is something that I think about every single day. And I have to actively, intentionally be purposeful with everything that I see, everything that I think about, everything I do, everything that I share, because the nonprofit indirectly and directly is attached to my personal being, my personal brand, my individual identity. And so as I build my personal brand here publicly, everything that I say, think, and do will also reflect the nonprofit. I must be intentional with everything that I say, think, and do. And I would encourage you, if you haven't found your purpose just yet, to devote some time to figuring that out for yourself, right? I think that would be the second thing I share. The third thing is what I've taught to my children already. Who you associate with is who you become. Environmental exposure changes your world. It could change your future. Who you hang out with, right? So in simple terms, who you hang out with is who you become. There's a quote: if you show me your friends, I'll show you your future. That is a very powerful quote that I've found to be true in life. 2018 to 2020, for me, one decision that I made for my personal brand, my business, was I hung out with people who partied all the time. They're not bad people, right? There's good and bad people in every group, every community. The people that I was hanging out with during that time were not bad people, but based on my decision that I made to hang out with these people dictated my future, right? Fast forward 18 months later, I found myself in rock bottom. I found myself alone. I found my business failing. I found my life failing. Like, I felt like that. Fast forward 2020, I meet the love of my life. I make an intentional decision to cultivate that relationship with her. Fast forward to today, 5 years later, I have a family. I have a significant other, my partner. I have businesses. I have brands. I have my nonprofit. I have good friends, strong relationships that I still have yet to cultivate further and deeper. But who you hang out with is who you become. And so I really believe it's important to really audit your circle of influence, your circle of friends, your circle of associations, because depending on where you want to go in life, depending on your goals, your dreams, your aspiration, what you aspire to be, what you aspire to do, how much of an impact you want to create in society, in the world, in history. It's going to determine based on who you surround yourself with on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly basis. And there's a lot of advice out there that says to cut off those relationships that no longer serve you. But to me, in hindsight, because I've done that before, and I would not advise to do that. I would say instead to just make more friends, to surround yourself with new environments, to surround yourself with different people, different backgrounds, different social circles, and really dabble into everything, explore, discover. And I guess number 4, career-wise, right? There's a quote by Jim Rohn. He says, don't focus on how much you're making in a job or career, whatever that is for you. Ask, who are you becoming in the process? What are you becoming? What kind of character are you developing? What kind of values are you instilling in your career? Whether you're a business owner or employee, it doesn't matter. A creator, a founder, you name it, entrepreneur, whatever. Ask yourself that question. Philosophically think, what are you becoming in the process? And especially with career, right? Career, we spend a good amount of time of our life in a career because we have to make money, we have to eat, we have to pay bills, etc. And so that is a good question to wrestle with, is to ask yourself, what are you becoming in the process, no matter what your position is? Number 5, I would say, in today's society, today's world, focus is so important. Cutting off all distraction and focusing on the one thing that really will move the needle for you and create progress in your life. I think that's so important. For me, literally yesterday, I cut off, because AI is, we have to learn AI, we have to adapt to it. I would encourage you to learn social media and AI for sure. But AI, right? There's so many new tools coming out every single day for AI. For me, I found myself researching, implementing, testing, experimenting. My mentor told me that you must become a mad scientist, meaning that you should experiment faster, because the person who experiments the most and fastest wins. And this is obviously in terms of business thinking and business, in your lifestyle in terms of business. And so when it comes to AI, for me, what I found myself falling into was distraction. What I found myself falling into was analysis of paralysis, simply because I'm just learning consistently. And even though I'm testing, it's slowing my progress down because I just know better. I know what I need to do. And by me experimenting with all these different AI tools, it's not getting me to the place where I wanted to go. So I had to reflect and think. And just within 1 minute, I was like, this is a distraction for me, the specific AI tool that I was using. And they're all good, depending on what you're using it for, what's the purpose for it. But for me, I was paying for a subscription for an AI tool, and I found myself just experimenting and learning, but no results, no real results. I already got the results that I wanted for that. So I made an intentional decision to cut off that distraction. And now it allowed me to go faster, right? I would encourage you to explore, experiment, dabble faster, because I believe that convenience plus speed equals results. Convenience and speed is king, especially in business and careers like this. So I want to say that cut off all distractions. There's a good quote on this. Feed your focus and starve distractions, okay? Starve distractions and feed your focus. You must decide on what you need to focus on in order for you to improve your life, both your career and personal life. You must decide and make decisions quickly, okay? There's going to be a lot of different things happening in the next few years, especially with technology as it advances, as AI becomes more status quo, and there's going to be so many changes happening in our lifetime. And so, I would encourage you to have fun. I would encourage you to do things with intention and purpose, but to focus. Once you decide and identify that one thing you want to focus on, go all in. And don't be afraid to stop experiments if you need to, if you receive insight that tells you otherwise. But make the decisions for yourself. Think clearly for yourself. I think 2 more things before I go. I would say to connect with your heart, okay? Don't close your heart. Connect with your heart. I'll link inside the description, I'll link a specific meditation. And if you don't believe in meditation, that's fine. but experiment. Okay, I'm gonna link a meditation from one of my partners, co-founders in the nonprofit. It's called the Music Enhanced Heart Meditation. It's intentionally designed to help you connect with your heart, to help you reconnect with your heart. So it's free and it's helped a lot of people. And if you've never experienced the Music Enhanced Heart Meditation, then if you want to, if you feel called, try it for yourself. That right there is something that I do every now and then, because I've noticed that for myself, if I feel like I'm forcing things, or if I feel like I'm misaligned with myself, if I feel like I'm out of flow with nature, then I must connect to my heart. That's kind of like a trigger for myself to reconnect with my heart. And so the Music Enhanced Heart Meditation is something that I encourage every single individual who's open to do and to share with their loved ones. It doesn't hurt to open your heart and to reconnect with your heart. So I would say that. And the last thing is to really sit down with yourself, cut out all the noise, no distraction, empty your mind, right? Empty the mind and sit with yourself, or journal, and really think about the principles and philosophies that you want to define for yourself, and then from there translate it into the decisions and actions that you take in your life. My father and mother, they created something and taught me this when I was like 3 years old. They said, here are the 5 rules of life. Okay, I'm going to encourage you to set your own rules of life for yourself. The 5 rules of life that was instilled to me was to be good, be healthy, work hard, get along, and do something good with your life. Okay, I understood the first 4. The 5th one, do something good with your life, I'm still defining that for myself. I'm still trying to figure out, what does that really mean to me? How can I let my learning, my knowledge, how can I bring that intangible idea and make it tangible into my reality, into my world, so that way it benefits others, so that way it benefits society, so that way I can impact positively, leave a positive impact in the world. And I feel like I'm very close. I actually feel like I found it with the nonprofit, to do something good with my life, to be of service to others, to let my being, let my leadership, let my actions, let my role in society, right? Let me be the tool to be of service to the greater good in society, to leave my mark in the world, to make it positive, to make sure that I am giving to humanity, that I am giving to others, that I am being of service, to do something good with my life. Like, I am actively defining that, actively bringing that into my reality, actively doing my best to be that. And I actually wrote it down, right? This was actually yesterday. I was wrestling with this yesterday. Do something good with your life. Be of service to yourself first, and second to society as a whole. Leave the world a better place than you first found it. I wrote that yesterday. And so I would encourage you to define that for yourself. Like, define the rules of life for you, your principles, your philosophy, whatever that is for you, and really wrestle with it. And once you define it, like, let it speak in terms of your actions. Like, bring that intangible force into the tangible and let the results do the talking for you. So it's going to be through your actions, though, that I believe it will leave an impact in the world. And just by being, okay, by being you, being yourself, your authentic, raw, unfiltered self, you can impact other people. So that's just what comes off the top of my mind when I read the comment. And there's probably a lot more, but again, take everything with a grain of salt. Think about it for yourself. Anything that's external to you, think about it, wrestle, research, educate yourself, do the work on thyself, right? Read a lot of books, autobiographies, just dabble into a lot of different things. Experiment faster, find mentorship, get mentorship, coaching, advisors, surround yourself with different levels of people in all walks of life. Be open-minded, attached to nothing, be a student of life. And they say when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. When the student is not ready, the teacher will disappear. Be a student. I encourage you to be a student of life. And we're all students of life here. Surround yourself with good people, right? Don't be afraid to dissociate. Don't be afraid to move around. Don't be afraid to take risks that you calculate, obviously, but take risks for yourself in life. And not only that, but keep on seeking, keep on asking, keep on knocking, keep on going after the ideas, the unknown experiences of life, and do it for yourself. Like, really set a boundary for yourself, and don't cross, if you set a boundary, don't cross the sand that you draw, like, unless you want to expand it further. But do your best to embody it and to be who you want to be in this life. My SD card ran out. I need to make some room. But I would encourage you to embody, okay? Embody what you learn and let your actions speak louder than your words. In today's world, with social media as the norm, there's a lot of talk, but let your actions, your decisions, what you do, the work that your labor, everything, let that also speak for you. It's so interesting in the world that we live in today, because there's so much going on and so much distraction out there in the world. But if you are intentional with what you do, if you are intentional with everything that you read, that you listen to, that you want to experiment with, etc., it's only going to help you on your journey in life. And so, again, just to wrap this up, take everything with a grain of salt. Really wrestle with what you want to observe and what you want to let in your life. And don't be afraid. And don't be afraid to take action. Don't be afraid to experiment. Be stoic. Actively raise your stoicism factor. Actively work on yourself. Actively be a benefit to others. Spend time with your loved ones. That is time that you don't want to regret. So there's a lot of advice out there that you can take, that you can wrestle with and receive. But again, take everything with a grain of salt. Anything that's external to you, take everything with a grain of salt. Even internal, within. Define it for yourself. Figure out what it means to you. Let your actions speak louder than your words. Figure out what it means to do something good with your life. I would encourage you to do that. All right. I hope you found this valuable for yourself. 3 things to wrap up with. If you like this type of content, subscribe. If you have a question, ask. If you have a business and you need help scaling, book a call. I hope you have an amazing day. Dominate your path and make it happen, all right?